All right, chapter 6 will be a short one because we don't want to overextend ourselves, right? In the pursuit of our knowledge. So, after this cheesy joke, let me present this finally. This slide again. And here we have Caesar writing to Rome. And I think this is something where you kind of think about many theories. This is often how, obviously not with Rome and obviously not with a Rubicon and in the bushes, they're the attitudes and the expectations. Yet, this is often how we display kind of behavior. But what we forget is that maybe Caesar also wanted to get in the best shape of his life and become a real good gladiator. So there's another pole, and he needs to kind of wants to increase his daily training. He also might want to find a wife. He feels like, man, I'm getting old. It would be important to start a family. I often feel lonely in my tent on the road. So this is something, and it's not easy to find a wife when you are trying to conquer the world. And maybe he thought like, you know what, I got lately really into wine. I would like to see some different wine regions, maybe start a little YouTube channel and report about my wine adventures. And what you can see is basically a more complex and slightly more complex picture of goal pursuit, because goal pursuit doesn't kind of exist in a vacuum, right? You and I, we pursue many goals at the same time, and it's interesting for us to kind of see, okay, why Caesar might fail to reach Rome might not be because he's doing anything wrongly on the way to Rome, but maybe this is like the relationship that his goals have. I here put down Klinger 2015 just as one example of people who are really interested in studying the individual system of goals people have. So this became a real prominent approach in personality psychology. Brian Little, Klinger, Emmons, and others started to look at basically the to-do list, the wish list, the goal list of people and trying to better understand why they feel and behave the way they do. So you can basically look at that and then you see some interesting things. So for instance, if you look at the goal matrix of a depressed person, right? Then you can see that a lot of the goals of a depressed person are in conflict with each other. You can imagine that the goals of that person kind of are something like, okay, I want to be the best student. I want to learn 2 new languages. I want to be in the best shape of my life, and I want to be an amazing son. So all of these need time and devotion, and you can't act on them perfectly. So the more time you spend and get in the best shape of your life, the less time you have to conquer Rome or to find a woman. So often goals inhibit each other. So this is like one finding that Klinger and others always find. The second one of here just 2, I won't talk about this much more, but 2 other things that depressed people have in their goal systems. They often have goals that are extremely ambitious and where they have low expectations. So they have very high desirable, low feasibility goals among them, and a lot of avoidance goals. I don't want to become fat. I don't want to become unemployed, and so forth. So the more you have of these in your goal matrix, also the less happy you are and the less successful you are in pursuing each one of them. I think that's somewhat kind of common knowledge. One person who tried to really systematize that and the idea of trying to better understand how the relationships of our goals influence basically the goal pursuit was Kruglanski. He has the goal system theory. So here you can basically see vertical lines. So vertical lines are kind of like lines where they support each other, okay? So you have one mean, you get from that mean to that sub-goal, and from that sub-goal you get to the goal. Well, horizontal lines basically mean inhibition. So you can imagine that if you pursue this mean to get to that goal, then this is basically kind of shut off. And also if you're trying to achieve this goals, then the other goals in this area, these other sub-goals are inhibited. One thing he realizes in his research is that basically there's this kind of tricky trade-off. So here you see you have a person that has one goal, and for that goal they have exactly one mean. Okay, so you can say, okay, I want to do It's like, if I can test this in this exam, and the only way I can do that is by studying and reading this textbook, right? So this person, there's a really strong link between this. This makes it more likely that people act on this mean that they will basically start with the goal pursuit and persist in that goal pursuit, because there's this unique connection that the mean has to the goal. Yet, when there are more means, right, you have more alternatives. So it could be that, for instance, to reach the exam, that there are different ways to do that, even though I can't really think of them right now. That means that you have more alternatives. So if one thing goes wrong, you can kind of compromise with another mean, but it also means that each of these are somewhat less strongly activated. So a person on the right here is more likely to start and persist in their goal pursuit than the person on the left. This person might be better suited when bad things happen. You can the same thing, you can say, oh, I think I wrote this here on the right too, the same thing for goals, okay? So if you have many goals, if you have a plan A, B, and C, and maybe you just have one mean to achieve them, then this mean becomes less likely to be activated, because it somewhat is related to different paths, and none of them is very strong. Even if you have just one goal, then the activation between these goals is really strong, and you're more likely to pursue them. But it also means, obviously, that you're more vulnerable, right? So this is like a risky business. You only have one goal. If you fail to achieve that one goal, then you're kind of thrown off. Yet if you have several goals, then you might be less likely somewhat to achieve one of them, but you're more likely, in terms of crisis, to be able to switch to a different goal.